Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the best-selling author, award-winning international speaker, industry-leading salesperson, and a remarkable survivor, Christine Clifford Beckwith.
I want you all to go back in time to the year 1971 and try to imagine the dwelling in which you were living at the time that had a television set. A commercial came on the air. This commercial, the single most significant sales and marketing event of your lifetime, because it is from this commercial that can teach you or remind you 3/4 of what you need to know to market and sell donor services. I'm going to play the role of the narrator of this commercial, and one of you is going to play the other role, but don't worry, when the time comes, you'll know exactly what to say. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we are at the fabulous New York dining spot Lutece, where the diners have just finished their meal, and they're now having a cup of coffee. But what the diners don't realize is that the coffee they are drinking is Folgers crystals. I see one of the diners finishing their meal right now. Let me go over and ask him about his experience. Hi, and your name is?
Julio,
Julio. And Julio, where are you from?
New Jersey.
Julio is from New Jersey. And Julio, welcome to Lutece.
Thank you.
And Julio, I see that you have just finished your coffee.
Yes.
And how was it, Julio?
Good?
Julio, the answer is fabulous.
Oh, fabulous. Yes, fabulous.
Fabulous. Now, why would Julio from New Jersey believe that freeze-dried coffee tastes fabulous? And by the way, for those of you who don't know this already, it doesn't. But why would Julio from New Jersey believe that it does? There are 3 reasons of enormous significance as to why people will choose your services. So what is the first reason? Let's imagine that tonight, Julio and Steve and Chris Fisher and Dell and Jeffrey and I decide to go out after dinner to the most expensive restaurant in Minneapolis for coffee and dessert. So tonight we go to La Belle Vie and they bring the menus, and we soon see that we can have either the coffee or the dessert, but at these prices, unless we take out a second mortgage, we're going to have to choose. So we choose the coffee, and they bring it to us, and it tastes fabulous. Well, of course it tastes fabulous. Show of hands here. Have any of you ever experienced a bad $13 cup of coffee? Your prices and fees are not just your prices and fees. They are the communicators and conveyors as to the quality of your service. And the higher the price, the higher the perceived quality. What is the second reason why Julio believes that freeze-dried coffee tastes fabulous, even though it doesn't? Well, I think you can get a clue just by looking at Julio. He's a bon vivant, a gourmet, a lover of great things. He subscribes to Gourmet Magazine and Bon Appetit and Town and Country. And for years, Julio has only read about brand name restaurants like Lutece, and he has only dreamed about eating there one day. And here he finds himself at Lutece, and he had read that the restaurant was fabulous, and so they bring the coffee, and it tastes fabulous, even though it doesn't. Why? Because it's not the coffee that Julio is experiencing. It's what the brand has convinced him he will experience. Brands change people's perceptions about you. Brands attract people, but they do even more than that. They change your experience, and they allow people to become long-term customers. And for the power of the story of brand, we need to look no further than Extra Strength Rogaine. My husband was in San Francisco. He was reading the San Francisco Chronicle, and he came across an ad that simply stated, hair loss. My husband has an ego, just like most of us, so he pushed the hair back off his forehead, looked in the mirror and thought, yeah, I could use some. So he wandered down the street to the clinic. It was just down the street from his hotel, and he walked through the door, and the woman behind the counter said, "Are you here today responding to the ad in today's Chronicle?" "Yes, I am. Harry Beckwith," he said. "Well, Mr. Beckwith, you're in luck. We just happen to be one of the only clinics doing the market testing for a brand soon to be called Extra Strength Rogaine. Mr. Beckwith, here's what we'd like you to do. We'd like you to take this vial of liquid home with you, rub it into your scalp every night 45 minutes before you go to bed, do that for 21 days, and then on the 21st day, call us and tell us about your hair gain." So my husband brought this stuff home and he rubbed it into his head, and on the 21st day, I will never get over the commotion coming out of our bathroom. "I've grown more hair. Honey, this is amazing." No. What's amazing is what happens next. My husband decides he's going to call the clinic out in California and order more bottles of this stuff. So he dials the number, he gets on the phone, he goes, "Hi, this is Mr. Beckwith from Minneapolis, and it's my 21st day, and I've actually grown more hair. This is fantastic." And what? Okay. The woman on the other end of the phone asked him for his case study number. So he gets back on the phone and he goes, "Yeah, my number, 50765. Yeah, and this is just so fun. I can't wait. I want to order some for all my friends." And the woman on the phone says, "Mr. Beckwith? Yeah? I've got some news for you." "Yeah? You're in the control group." Now, I mentioned to all of you that my husband is not a quick learner, but he did take psychology and sociology in college. So he knew what a control group was. And I could tell that at that very moment in time, he was in total denial. And so my husband said, "Okay, so what exactly does that mean?" And the woman says, "Well, Mr. Beckwith, what that means is that the stuff that was in your vial is Puritan vegetable oil and water." Now, I can tell that the woman on the other end of the phone is used to dealing with people like my husband, so she says, "Mr. Beckwith, if it's any consolation to you, don't worry. 40% of the people who were in the control group reported hair gain. We always get these numbers when we do these studies." And so then my husband has to ask the question, well then, what percent of the people who used the real stuff grew hair? 60%, she says. So at this point in my program, I'm going to stop and offer you the only unsolicited, non-marketing and sales piece of advice that I will offer all day. And that is, women or men interested in growing hair, just go buy some Puritan vegetable oil and water. Because see, all we really want to do is feel better about ourselves. We want to change our experience. And besides, if it doesn't work, then you've got extra ingredients left over for salad dressing. You've kind of amortized your costs. So let's go back to Julio one last time and ask, what's the third reason that Julio believes that freeze-dried coffee tastes fabulous, even if it doesn't? Well, it's amazing. You can go anywhere in the world, and if you are served freeze-dried coffee in fine-bone china over Irish linens while listening to Bocelli play on a $350,000 stereo system, an amazing thing happens to your perception of the coffee. It tastes fabulous, even if it doesn't. Why? Because we think with our eyes. And for the power of packaging, which becomes the third reason, we need to go back to the city of Garland, Texas, 8 years ago this past April. A woman brought her Seal Point Siamese cat into her veterinarian for what she thought were going to be routine inoculations, or what she hoped would be routine inoculations. Upon examination, her veterinarian noticed that something was slightly off about the cat, its balance. Fearing that the cat might have a tumor and that it might be malignant and that might might be what was causing the lack of balance, the veterinarian ran his fingers up each of the cat's legs, and then up its back and spine, and then up its neck to a tiny place behind each of its ears, where behind the right ear he found a tiny pebble, no bigger than a grain of sand, on the shores of Lake Minnetonka. He asked and received the woman's permission to lance and biopsy the lump, and it was malignant. He had saved the cat's life. It was an extraordinary act of professional skill and competency, the kind of skill and competency we all aspire to every day in our own lives.